Hey everyone! So you probably know me best from doing a lot of video game history documentaries and stuff like that, but I wanted to make a second channel where I could talk a little bit more about my collection, make some more informal videos, just kind of like have some like bonus stuff that I could kind of make alongside the content on my other channel. So I created this one, and today I want to talk a little bit about some of the games that I picked up the past 2 months because I thought that'd be pretty cool, and I want to share it with people because I love collecting import Japanese games. So without further ado, let's start off with the Super Famicom. So we're going to start off with a big one, Super Metroid on the Super Famicom, released in 1994. I've had this game for a very long time, since launch day in 1994. I bought the North American version and saved up my money when I was a kid to buy it because I was already a huge Metroid fan back in the 80s and 90s. But I've always wanted to actually get a Super Famicom copy because it looks so cool. The artwork is completely different from the Western version. Just really awesome art. And I was going to buy this a year ago, and it was pretty affordable a year ago, actually. And then fast forward to 2023, and the prices have gone up quite a bit. So I decided to jump on this before they went up anymore, and finally pulled the trigger, and I'm very happy that I did so. And this copy I got here is in pretty good shape, not too shabby. And the instruction manual comes with a lot of cool artwork for the map, the bosses, the enemies. It's just it's a really nice package, and I love this game so much, and I am happy to have it in my collection. So next up is Ganbare Goemon Yukihime Kyushitsu Emaki, released in 1991 in Japan, and released in 1992 in North America as Legend of the Mystical Ninja, which a lot of people know that as the title. But this was actually a franchise that was going on in Japan for a while. This is, I believe, the 5th game in the series, and the first one we got over in North America. We didn't get many. I think it was just this one, and I believe the Goemon games on the N64, and I'm not too sure what else was released. Not many, unfortunately. This is a very Japan exclusive series. But the artwork in this is awesome. There's a lot of great stuff in the instruction manual for the characters and items and whatnot. It's a really nice little package. And it was a really great game. This was kind of like broken up into two different types of gameplay. There was like more of the towns, which was like kind of like a beat 'em up kind of style areas, and you could like play mini games and buy items. It was like more of like an RPG-ish kind of thing. And then there was like the traditional platforming stages where you go through like a whole section and then fight a boss at the end. And one of the coolest things about this game is that you can play the original Gradius game in the first stage of the Gradius arcade, which a lot of people remember this game for. But awesome game. If you haven't played this, definitely check it out, and definitely one that I am happy to have in my collection, finally. Moving on to Famicom, I picked up Final Fantasy 1 and 2, which is something I've wanted for quite some time. This released in 1994. It was the last Famicom game Square ever released, and it came out the same year as Super Metroid, which is kind of crazy to think about, that the Famicom was going that long in Japan. So this is a very late release. And obviously it includes both Final Fantasy 1 and 2. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy 1. It was my first RPG as a kid, so it's very nostalgic for me, and a game that I still like to go back and play. And this has a few sprite changes from the original, not much. It's mostly the same games, but a couple of small sprite changes. And it comes with a really awesome map of Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2, as well as a guidebook of the two games that features like a bunch of like the weapons and armor and enemies and stuff like that, and locations, which is really cool. But this is one I've wanted for a while, and it's just like a really cool package, and a great a great collector's item for a Final Fantasy fan like myself. So really awesome pickup right here. Next, we have the Hyrule Fantasy Densetsu no Zelda, or The Legend of Zelda as most people know it, for the Famicom Disk System, which released in 1986. It was a launch game for the Famicom Disk System. Very obviously a very important game in game history that influenced a lot of things and is still going today. But this is one I've wanted for a while. I'm a huge Zelda fan, especially the classic Zelda games. So I wanted to grab this. I have a Famicom Disk System, which I had fixed myself and added a new belt onto. So I wanted to play it on the original hardware. And this game is really cool because it has a couple features not in the American version and the Western version of the game. One of which is you can yell into the microphone to destroy certain enemies. I believe that's the only way you can get. It's the pole voice. I think what they're called, Pole's voice. And they even have like a little remnant of that in the US instruction manual where it says the enemy hates loud noises or something like that, which is a callback to the Famicom Disk version, meaning that you're supposed to yell into, it was like a hint to yell into the microphone of the Famicom controller. But this is really cool. It comes with stickers, a bunch of cool artwork. Not that different from, I believe, the American version, which had a lot of the artwork intact as well. But it's cool to have the original release of this game, and one that I'm happy to have in the collection. Also, I also got this sweet flyer. It's like an advertisement for the Famicom Disk System and Zelda, the first Zelda on it. For this is like from 1986, legit from Japan, and it also has the Murasame Joe on the back. But definitely a cool little thing. I want to get this framed and put this up in my office. So pretty nice. So the next thing is not a game at all, but a console. It is a twin Famicom released in 1986 by Sharp. This was made by Sharp, not Nintendo themselves, but it pretty much was a Famicom, which you can see right here, and a Famicom Disk System combined into one. And this is actually the second version, which came out, I believe, a year or two afterwards, that had a slight redesign from the original, and the controllers have the turbo functionality built into them, which is kind of cool. Both versions are pretty awesome, but I am very happy to finally own one of these myself. It is one. It is a console I've wanted to get for a long time, and I originally got it to sell, but I couldn't bring myself to do that because it's too cool. So I decided to keep it myself and enjoy it. So yeah, pretty awesome. Keeping with the Famicom theme, we have Tower of Draga for the GameCube, of all things. This is actually a GameCube game that released in 2003. The original game was 1984. It came out in arcades by Namco, and then they released the Famicom version, which this is right here. This is not the arcade version. This is the Famicom version, and this is actually a recreation of the original Famicom box art on the sleeve of the GameCube. This actually pops out here, and there's some more cool little stuff inside. I think there's like a comic and whatnot in here. Really cool little item. And this was, I don't believe this was available in stores. I'm pretty sure this was a pre-order bonus for Baten Kaitos on the GameCube. And only in Japan, obviously. We never got this over in the West. But really cool little collector's item. I don't think it's particularly that expensive. I think you can track this down for pretty cheap these days. But something I just thought was too cool not to pick up. You don't really see many GameCube games that look exactly like a Famicom box, so this was an awesome one to add to the collection. And yet another Famicom-themed item, we have Super Mario Bros. From the Famicom Mini Collection. This was released in 2004, I believe for the 20th anniversary of the Famicom, and this is awesome because all of these kind of came with these mini boxes which you could pull out of the packaging itself, and then the game was actually inside of this. So there was some based on the Famicom disc packaging, some based on the original Famicom packaging, but these are really awesome and pretty affordable these days. Most of them, there's a couple of them like Castlevania are incredibly pricey. But the majority of these you can get for usually like $20 to $40, so not insanely priced. But these are really, really awesome and way better than the classic NES series we got the same year over in North America and Europe. Just not nearly as cool, but still, these are, like I said, easily obtainable and really, really cool collector's items. Next up, we have another console, the PC Engine Core Graphics 2. I have wanted one of these forever. I've wanted one of these since I was in 5th grade. My friend that had one was incredibly rich, and I would always go to his house and play it. And I've just never had one for myself, and I finally got one. So I am incredibly excited to play more of this. And this is actually the Graphics 2, the Core Graphics 2. The Core Graphics 1 came out in 1989, and the Core Graphics 2, I believe, was 2 years after that in 91. And pretty much the main difference was that it replaced the RF adapter with AV outs. So very happy to finally have one of these to use and play on. And if you have a console, obviously you need some games to play on it. So I picked up PC Genjin, the very first one, which is known as Bonk's Adventure in North America, and I believe BC Kid in Europe. I think I have that right. But I've always wanted to play this game. I remember seeing the commercials as a kid for the game on TurboGrafx, and always just being so enamored with it and thinking it was such beautiful graphics and just looked like a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to finally playing my first Bonk's Adventure / PC Genjin game here. And obviously PC Genjin is a pun on PC Engine in Japan, which is pretty cool. But very excited to finally own and be able to play this game for once. Sticking with PC Engine, we have Parodius Da, one of my favorite series of all time. This released in 1992. 2 years after the arcade release, surprisingly. This was kind of a late release for the Parodius Da, but it's amazing. It runs so good, and it's just an amazing game. And it's obviously a parody of the Gradius series, hence Parodius. And it is the second game in the series. A lot of people think this is the very first game. Parodius on the MSX was the first game, and Parodius Da was the sequel to that. So amazing game, worth checking out. Any of them, honestly, not just Parodius Da, Gokujo, Jikyo, and Sexy are all amazing games. So very happy to have this as one of my first PC Engine games. So moving forward through the years quite a bit, we have 2006's Goku Makaimura for the PlayStation Portable, which means Extreme Demon World Village in English. And this was obviously called Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins in the West. But this was a very divisive game because it really kind of moved away from the traditional Ghosts and Goblins gameplay. And by that I mean it was very exploration heavy, and you needed to collect a certain amount of rings to face the final boss instead of simply beating the game twice. And then there was also a bunch of light RPG elements that were added in. So it's a fun game. It's definitely not my favorite in the series. Probably one of my lower in the list games, but still pretty fun. And they released a different version of this 1 year later in 2007, which I would also like to track down at some point in the future, called Goku Makaimura Kai, or Goku Makaimura Revised. So, and that kind of made the gameplay fall in line more with the classic series, where you simply just go through the game 2 times and then face the final boss, and it removes a lot of like the RPG elements and more of the exploration type of stuff. So it plays much more like a old school Ghosts and Goblins game. But happy to take one more step towards completing my Ghosts and Goblins Makaimura Japanese collection. Next is a little bit of a weird one. I bought this specifically for the box art because it is so awesome. And this is Metroid Other M for the Nintendo Wii. I'm not a huge fan of this game. I know that is pretty much the common opinion with most Metroid fans. But I am such a fan of the series that I love this cover so much. And it's actually a slip cover. So if you pull this up, you can actually see Samus without her suit. And then if you push it back down, she pops right back in here. So I thought this was really, really cool. Way better than what we got in the West. And it's not too pricey. You can get this, I think, for between 20 and 30 bucks, give or take. But I just am such a diehard Metroid fan that I just needed to have this box art on display on my shelf because it looks so damn cool. Next, we have one very near and dear to my heart, Akumajo Dracula X Geka no Yasou Kyoku, or Dracula X Nocturne in the Moonlight, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, as most people know it. My favorite game of all time. I adore this game more so than any other. I play through it once a year. It's amazing. It is a perfect game, and one that I just cannot get enough of. So it is finally time to add this one to the collection. It has taken far too long for me to get this game, and I'm very happy to own it. Obviously, this defined the Metroidvania subgenre. I know people love to hate that word, but it is still very important for being one of the games that really defined what that was. And the game obviously is very exploration focused. That's been kind of the theme this video, is games that are not normally exploration focused but have become that way. But Igarashi took a lot of inspiration from Zelda instead of Metroid, surprisingly, when he made this. But it's an amazing game. This actually comes with a small art book from Ayami Kojima, the lead artist for the game, and also like a short manga included in it as well, and includes a music CD that has a bunch of classic music tracks from the older Castlevania games that came before it, from like the 80s and early 90s. So very happy to finally have this game. One that I have been dying to get, and one that I am happy is finally a part of my collection. And that about does it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video where I took a look at some of the games I picked up from my collection the past 2 months. Very informal and very different from the things I normally do. So please let me know if you like this, and if you'd like to see more in the comments below. Please consider subscribing, since this is a brand new channel and I probably have nobody subscribed so far. And please check out my main channel, Rewind Arcade, if you're into video game documentaries or video game essays and stuff like that. I have a lot of fun putting that stuff together over there. Hope to see you next time, and thanks so much for watching.